it's the next day and this is now looking nice and dry. The blade switch spot and the bridge hole spots, they're all filled in, so I can go ahead and start sanding all of this flat and smoothing out the body. So there you can see where the switch was. My guess is that that will be completely indetectable once primer coat and full metal coat has gone on. By the way, I did a whole bunch of samples of orange metallic, which is the colour I'm going for, with primers and different clear coats. So I've decided I'm going to go with this, which is a white undercoat, a metallic orange over, and then actually a car lacquer on top. So that's going to be the colour of this guitar. So now it's time to drill the holes for the bridge, and these are 6.9mm and 16mm deep, and let's just check that. I've put a bit of wood under here to raise the body up so that this is drilling in at 90 degrees. Let's do our first one. Now when we have a look at that, we can see that I've actually gone into the epoxy that I put on the back here, so I'm very glad that I put that there. Perfect fit. Once the finish is in, there'll be a tiny little bit in there which will actually make it a really tight fit. Okay, now let's do the other one. Lovely stuff. So I can check that the centre of the nut and the centre of the bridge line up perfectly and run down the middle of the holes for the inlays, which they do. So finally I'm going to go on with the second part of this Flaxwood guitar. The thing that held me up was that it didn't have any inlays, and I wrote off and I said, you know, guys, can you send them through? And they did, but when they arrived, I found that the oval inlays weren't very oval, and there's a lot of room in the slot, and it's really quite unacceptable. Even for stuff I do by hand, this is way out. And then the round inlays, well, they're not round at all. And it's not just a case of the top of them being misshapen and you sanding down. There's a circle underneath and it's just not round. And that's not acceptable for me. And they're also very loose. So I decided, well, I have to do something about this. And so I sent off and I've gotten some pieces of mother of pearl, and I've gotten some dots, which are slightly too large, but I will make them the correct size. And once I've got the inlays done, I will be able to move on with this build. Righto, so I've made a template here. Let's just mark that on our mother of pearl. So you'll notice that I'm controlling this with sticks. I'm wearing safety glasses and my fingers are getting absolutely nowhere near the blade. So here's my basic shape, and now I'll sand it down. Hand sanding for a nice curve and a precise fit. Almost there. Our bottom edge is perfect. Our top edge needs maybe 1/2 mil off. Keep going. And here we are. It's perfect. I doubt we could get an even better fit with the CNC, so a bit of hand sanding and time gives you a really nice result. Now, making the dots fit is a simple, although slightly annoying process. The dots are 5mm and they need to be 4.8mm. So what I do is I take a 4.8mm drill and I stick a dot on the end of it with super glue. Let's check it out. Some glue. Go. Our dot. Perfect fit. Now, a clean up with a quick bit of naphtha just to see what we've got and how our inlay looks. Shows us. Looks pretty good to me. Time to deepen the fret slots. We have a very dramatic soundtrack for this. Just you and our old-fashioned Staffordshire. Not sure how much you can see, but you can get a really nice shine on this Flaxwood stuff. So now it's all done up to 2000 grit and it's ready for frets. Okay, it's time for the fretting process. This is very straightforward. I take my fret. As you can see, it's been undercut. These are stainless steel frets. I put a tiny bit of super glue on the fret. I position the fret in the slot. I use this fretting block which has a curve cut into it. Then I hammer the fret in. Then I take it over here. Let's turn the camera. And I press the fret the rest of the way into the slot. So, let's go. And that's one fret, 21 to go. So here's our neck. I've fretted it now, I've smoothed out the frets, they're stainless steel frets. I do have to say, this material wasn't great at accepting frets, and so I had to super glue the frets in. I mean, I usually use super glue or tight bond on frets anyway, but in this case it was really, really necessary. So I think that might be just an issue about the material dealing with stainless. Don't know if it's the same for nickel. Okay, so now I'm going to join it to the body, and the recommended glue for this is gel super glue, which, you know, for someone like me who has spent years and years and years learning about hide glues and all of that sort of stuff, the idea of just using some gel super glue seems ridiculous. So this is the fretboard caul. This is a rounded off caul for the underside. Let's just whack in a bunch of glue then and see what happens. Now I'm gluing it in here before I actually finish up the body for the very simple reason that my eventual aim with this guitar is to paint the neck and the body so that we have a kind of seamless joint. So the body and neck will both be painted, and the joint will be invisible with any luck underneath. So I'm going to glue it, then I'm going to fill the joint and sand it. Okay. I'm filming on an iPhone now. Probably the quality has changed. The reason is that I left the regular camera at home like a complete idiot. Okay, I can understand, because there's so much of a surface in this rather complex joint, why they recommend gel superglue as opposed to the other type, because the other type would just go rock solid before this had a chance to do anything. So one of the things I like about the design of this guitar is the neck joint, because when you lock it down tight, the neck joint really locks into place. It's a really interesting joint. And the tighter down it goes, the better the joint becomes. So there we are. Okay, so what I've done is, after gluing in the neck, I filled in the gaps around the joint with a little bit of the flaxwood powder, put some super glue on top, and now I'm basically kind of sanding the whole thing flush. So in a normal kit, if you didn't do this, you would have a noticeable gap. You'd be able to feel it with your fingers quite easily, and there'd also be a gap around the fretboard, where the fretboard joins the body, this little spot just here. There's a little C-shaped gap there, but that's all gone now. And the guitar, and I can call it a guitar now, feels like a proper musical instrument. I always say that whenever you're doing a build of any type, whether you're building a kit or whether you are building an instrument from scratch, there's this moment when it ceases to be lumps of material and it becomes an actual genuine musical instrument. And that right now is where I feel I am with this. I feel like it's become something. It's become a real musical instrument. So with the back on, we've got a really nice instrument. The stainless fret's going to be great to play. They're nice and level. Don't really have any major problems. And I'm really looking forward to putting this whole thing together. Alright, here it is. I've test strung it. I've put clear tone strings on there. I've got my tuners and I've got my bridge in place. It's quite loud acoustically. This tremolo seems to work and hold its tuning fairly well. Yeah, it's quite a nice guitar to play. The only thing I really want to change about it, I do need to lower the action, and this bridge is down as low as it can go, so what I'm going to need to do is drill recesses so that the bridge can go down a little lower, recesses for the posts. But I will leave it strung up for a while, and we will just see, how it settles in and what it feels like when I come back to the workshop. But by and large, it's a lightweight, composite, stainless steel fretted kind of modern guitar, which is really cool. So that's the end of part 2. When we come back, I'm going to paint it up and put it together and give it a play. Excellent.